Yep. Let's fade to black. All right. And we're going to get started in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 28th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Switch 2 could get revealed this week, just like the last 100 weeks. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe, everybody. Emma, how are you doing? You're here. You're married. Congratulations.
I am married. Thank you so much. It's great to be back. To everybody saying I have a new set, all I did was turn my desk around.
That's new to us, yeah.
You know, that is a new set. But you know, I really got it in my head that I wanted to change it up. You know, new wedding ring, new set,
right.
all that stuff. So yeah, it's been great. Same cat really
kitty love.
Really wants to be involved in the show. I asked him this morning, "Oh, you ready to be on the show?" And here he is, folks.
He's a star, of course.
Yeah. But no, I'm doing really well. It's funny because, like, you know, this is very modern, blah blah blah. But you know, I've lived with my husband already for 3 years, so it's like we're kind of like, cool. I doesn't really feel that different.
Nope.
But it was a great event, and yeah, it's great.
I'm glad to hear it. How's it been, like, getting on the other side of all the wedding planning? Were you able to
oh my God,
unwind and relax and bask in the hey, there's nothing to plan for this moment?
Yeah, well, yes and no. There's nothing to plan for my personal life at this moment, but I can't quite say the same for work. But yeah, we're. But yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting because my my physical therapist was like, "Why is your body so, like, showing all these signs of stress now?"
Mm-hmm.
And I basically explained to him that whenever I'm planning an event and there's like a lot of moving parts, I think I just kind of go into a fugue state, or I'm like, there's no, being stressed isn't going to help anything. Being freaking out isn't going to help anything. So I just kind of like zen out and do the thing. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, that was stressful.
Yes. It's, the stress acts as it turns into something else, like when the job needs to get done, and then when it has no like mechanism to funnel into, then it just stays there in the body. I know exactly what you mean. Totally.
Yeah. So
well, we're glad to have you back. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Couldn't we struggled to do the show without you, but you're here now. We're gonna make it happen again.
I'm back.
Absolutely. Did you get a chance to like play any games? I saw you log on to Hades 2 here and there.
Here and there is an understatement. So I am this far away from finishing Echoes of Wisdom. I know I'm on the
same.
final stretch.
Yep.
But then that Hades 2 update dropped, and it's been I've been playing a lot of Hades 2.
Yep. I don't blame you. I continue to be like, all right, I'm going to play some Hades 2, and then for whatever reason, I don't get back around to it. I played a little bit when the early access started, and I have nothing against early access. I like it a lot. But then, you know, these Astro stages keep happening, and I also need to finish Echoes of Wisdom. I need to finish 1,000 Year Door still, or else Mike's going to yell at me. So I got a lot of stuff to wrap up over here. But Hades 2 continues to be like just lingering there for me. Like, come play me, come play me. I'm like,
I've really been enjoying the Ben Star update. And it was really fun because the first time you open the game up to play with the Ben Star update, he talks at you because he's like the boss of the new area. But yeah, it's great. I know it's an early access. I love it so much. The new weapon is so fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with actually Dragon Age reviews. They're just popping off as soon as we got started. Early results are in. On OpenCritic, it has an 84 across all platforms at the moment. It was at 85, just popped down to 84. It's probably going to hover around there. Seems like on Metacritic, it's kind of in a similar range, maybe a little bit lower with fewer reviews on PC. But let's see if we have any of the early word here from some of these top critics. Robert Purchase over at Eurogamer said gave it a 5 out of 5 and said, a fantasy role-playing game of astonishing spectacle. This is the best Dragon Age and perhaps BioWare has ever been. Leanna Haffer at IGN gave it a 9 out of 10 and said Dragon Age the Veilguard refreshes and reinvigorates a storied series that stumbled through its middle years and leaves no doubt that it deserves its place in the RPG pantheon. The next Mass Effect is going to have a very tough act to follow, which is not something I ever imagined I'd be saying before I got swept away on this adventure. Let's see here. Shack News gave it a 7 out of 10. It says a game that is technically sound and very beautiful, but fails to get its hooks in where it counts. And I feel like among other great RPGs that have come out just this year, Veilguard will have a hard time standing out. And then Melindy Hetfield at The Guardian said 3 out of 5, and then said, there is lots to do in this huge and beautiful fantasy world, but inconsistent writing and muted combat dulls its blade. You looking forward to Dragon Age the Veilguard?
You know, I love Mass Effect, and I've never really gotten into Dragon Age. Like, I have a huge awareness of Dragon Age. I know a lot about it, but I've never actually played the games. When I used to stream pretty regularly on my Twitch channel back in ye old 2020, when nobody could leave their homes, I had some people in my Twitch community that absolutely just adore Dragon Age. I'm fascinated to play it. The scores are wild to me, just like looking at sort of the spread of them from places giving it, effectively like a 70 out of 100 or even a 60 out of 100, and then other places giving it a perfect score. So, yeah, I'm certainly curious. I love Mass Effect. So I'm down to give Dragon Age the ye old try.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good result for Dragon Age after, some questions about, hey, can BioWare bounce back and deliver a really solid game? And this is definitely that, at the very least. Like, maybe this is not Game of the Year contender. I think some of these reviews are implying that it actually is, in their opinion. But I think, across the board here, it seems like, this is a really good game, something worthy of BioWare, and maybe can put some of those concerns about the studio overall to rest. And then if you are interested in Dragon Age, it sounds like, hey, this is a good one of those. And then if if you've never played Dragon Age before, it seems like this might be a good one to hop on with, because it's well made technically, as they said. And then the concerns seem to be, again, glancing at the reviews really quick, I've not played it myself, that maybe some of the gameplay looks or is a little bit behind the curve when it gets compared to something like a Baldur's Gate 3, which is, I think, to be expected at this point. This is the Dragon Age that was supposed to be much more inspired by like God of War 2018 than classic RPGs. So the fact that it still has pretty strong RPG elements and then that stuff as well, okay, that sounds promising. So I'm probably going to check this out myself and give it a shot and play some of it. Who knows if it gets its hooks into me? That's something it could easily bounce off of. But as is, I think this is pretty good result for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I need something else to fill my time until the next major Hades 2 update. So, maybe it'll be Dragon Age.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, well, this game is out. Let's see, what is the release date? Is it coming out like tomorrow? Maybe later today? Yeah, it's
yeah.
Or is this the one that was out Halloween Day? So it might be out later this week.
Halloween, yeah, I think it comes out on Thursday, which is your kind of typical Thursday release day for games.
So people get a chance to check it out later this week, and I get the feeling this is going to do just fine. It's going to be a big hit for them, and it seems like one of those that is, for as much as the critics like it, and some are like, well, I like it, but I think it seems like it could be primed to be a fan favorite. I think there's a lot of Dragon Age fans that will show up and be very happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely a series that has some very diehard fans. Yes. So, and look, I get it. As there are certain games where it's a series or a something that really has its hooks in you. It can be difficult to be critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's something that you just absolutely adore and have been waiting for a long time. So I fully respect that. There may be people who are reviewing this game who are diehard Dragon Age fans, and you know what? Power to them. Yes,
getting your shit. Absolutely.
Yeah, like the stuff you like.
Like it. Yes. Just trying to see if GameSpot's review went up, but I don't see it.
I haven't seen it yet.
All right. Well, let's get into the news I have written down here. And in fact, I'll even bring up headlines. Let's do both at the same time. Wow. All right. Is Switch 2 getting announced this week? This is from Simon Batt at XDA. After Nintendo confirmed that it was working on a Switch 2, the internet has been abuzz with information and rumors surrounding this new handheld. We've heard everything from Nintendo Switch backward compatibility to a potential release date, but the gaming giant itself has been silent on most of these matters. If a recent rumor is to be believed, however, that may soon change, as a reputable leaker revealed that Nintendo may let us see behind the curtain before October is over. As spotted by Notebook Check, the news comes to us from PH Brazil, who has been supplying fans with a steady stream of Switch 2 leaks for a little while now. This time around, they have reason to believe that the Switch 2 will be shown off sometime between now and October 31st. Now, I did look into this a little bit. PH Brazil sounded like they were like, hey, there's some stuff that points to this, but and this makes sense, but it sounded like they were speculating. Let's not go ahead and just do the thing where it's like they were speculating, and so this is going to happen. But there's been a lot of people trying to drum up the smoke for a reveal this week. In fact, there is a countdown timer that says Nintendo will reveal the Switch 2 tomorrow. That has gone viral with a bunch of people who follow this stuff. And, Nintendo's earnings result is happening soon. If it's not this week, it's something like next week. It's happening very soon. So the theory goes, Emma, that Nintendo will have its earnings report where it will have to talk to investors, and maybe the Switch sales are slowed down faster than Nintendo expected and anticipated, and told investors that, hey, we're going to sell this many Switch units, so don't worry. And they're going to actually end up having to say, well, we sold this many. It's a much lower number. And so to offset concerns about that, Nintendo will have a reveal of the Switch 2 to distract and be like, hey, we're moving on, so what does it matter? Sure. Circumstantial evidence, barely even that, really. This is more like fan fiction a little bit. But I could also see it happening. Again, we are in the window. Nintendo said they will reveal the Switch 2 sometime between now and March 31st of next year at any point. And they're still it just feels like, they could reveal it this year still. Sure. That's what they did with the Switch 1. But things are different than they were with the Switch 1, right?
Yeah. So Nintendo's earnings report is scheduled for November 5th. So, I see the reasoning here completely. Look, I think it was R Wolves in chat said we should just make a supercut of every single story out there saying Switch 2 going to be revealed this week for the last 4 years.
Yep.
But look, I mean, this is more credible, shall we say, than other reports of, is the Switch 2 going to be revealed this week? I see the reasoning behind it. And yet they may also not It's just like truly, because again, as you say, they give this broad window of between nowish and March of next year. That's a big window of time. And I can see the impetus for them, doing this reveal, because as you say, that with the news that Switch 2 is coming, the Switch proper sales have definitely slowed down. And also I'm just like, didn't everybody get a Switch? Like, Switches are available now. So it's getting to be the time, especially when you start we're 4 years into the life cycle now of the next gen consoles from PlayStation and Xbox. So, it's, who can say?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, I think I'm with most other people on this, where it's like, listen, of course, I'm interested in Switch 2. It makes for a fun headline on the show. I'll talk about it when someone mentions it. Why not? Especially, the next story on this rundown is an ex-designer at Bethesda talk about Starfield 2. That's where we are with the news this week. So it's like, okay, yeah, we'll talk about Switch 2. But in reality, my day-to-day, I am not paying much attention to this stuff. I am just being like, Nintendo's going to do it when they're going to do it. I have mostly given up trying to predict how they are going to handle this. Because, the evidence we have or this sort of pattern, that recognition that people want to go with is, it happened this way with the Switch 1, and I get this. Of course, it's easy to fall into this. I do it often too. But like, it happened this way with the Switch 1, where they announced it, in the fall, and then they released it in March. That was because the Wii U was a disaster, and they were moving on quickly from that. And the Switch has kind of been very different. Now, of course, it's like, the Switch's sales are cratering, which I think they'll come in under what Nintendo told investors, but I don't think they're cratering. But that's very different. And then we also just don't know when the Switch 2 is supposed to launch, where the Switch 1 was kind of, by this point, understood to be coming pretty early in the next year. At this point, because the reveal had happened at this point, we kind of knew that was going to go down that way. So it's just, things are very different. And so when I try to be like, okay, what makes sense? What is Nintendo going to do in this situation? Because X, Y, and Z, it's like, Nintendo could do anything. And it feels like they have this stuff ready to go and ready to drop whenever they want, and they just haven't decided when they want to do it yet. So we're going to continue to be in this holding pattern, and Nintendo will just do it when they do it, and I've accepted that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, as far as the Nintendo Switch goes, sure, yes, the sales have slowed, but they haven't stopped completely. No. Because again, it is typically, in my experience, just in my personal experience between myself and friends that have children, it is the first console you buy a kid.
Oh yeah, it's the family console.
And there's plenty of kids who are now turning 8 years old, 10 years old.
Yep.
Whatever age it was that parents said, okay, we'll consider getting them a game console. There's kids turning that age, and they're still getting Switches.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's I had Steam Decks around the house and the PlayStation 5, and I let them play with whatever they want. It doesn't bother me.
Yep.
And they have both sort of, other than Astro constantly, Addie's off school today, she's playing Astro right over there right this second. Other than that, it is like Switch all the time. And that was not me being like, no, that's the console for you. They were both just like decided it's all Switch all the time now. And that's just how it goes. And Nintendo took advantage of that as much as possible, right? There's plenty of houses that have 2 Switches, 3 Switches. I
mean, we have 2 Switches in our household, 2 adults. We each have a Switch, you know?
And so I'm like, we are also at a point though where it's like, yeah, that's saturated. There are just about every house that is going to have multiple Switches has done that. And as much as that Zelda Switch Lite might have moved because people thought it looked cool, I think they're probably going to find out, okay, no, most people are just holding on for Switch 2. And so the time is right. And so if tomorrow we go on the Bombcast and right then, as soon as we're going live, they drop something for the Switch 2, again, I won't be surprised. And then if it doesn't happen until March of next year, I won't be surprised. It's just going to be, when they're going to do it is when they're going to do it. And we'll keep trying to figure it out because it is, I still think, pretty fun for this show.
Yeah,
But I also acknowledge it's completely a fool's errand. So
absolutely.
Nintendo gonna Nintendo.
Yeah.
All right. As promised, the next story, Starfield 2 will be one hell of a game, according to ex-Bethesda designer. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Veteran former Bethesda designer Bruce Nesmith has said that a potential Starfield sequel would be one hell of a game, thanks to the developer learning from the mistakes of the first. Speaking to Video Gamer, Nesmith, who left the company in 2021 after working on many of its biggest series, including acting as lead designer for Skyrim, compared Starfield's first entry to that of Mass Effect or Assassin's Creed, both of which received sequels that were much more positively received than their initial release. I mean, listen, I get that. I do. But Bethesda takes a long time to make their games. And
yes,
I think my thing here is, if we are taking the time to make a Starfield 2, how much further out does that push a Skyrim or a Fallout? And that seems like a crazy idea. I want to see the Starfield 2 that realizes all the potential. Absolutely. But
sure.
Not at the expense of another 10 years before we get a Fallout game.
No, and I was going to say that seems like a miss on their part if they're going to focus on a Starfield 2, especially given the renewed interest that we saw in the beginning of the year with Fallout. And yes, obviously, a ton more people played Fallout 4, and Fallout 76 is maybe playable. But that being said, they would be real dumb not to capitalize on the crossover audience that they have gotten from the fact that Amazon made a really good Fallout TV show somehow.
Yeah.
So it's just, I also just Starfield, like, was Starfield the first game actually done? That's a big question to begin with. Yeah, it seems like an odd choice.
Seems like a, not necessarily like a boondoggle, not necessarily like chasing some dragon or something. Like, I think a Starfield 2 again could, if it does realize all the promise, would do very well. But you just have things that, excuse me, sneezed really bad, had to mute myself. It seems like you have things that are absolute guaranteed winners, again, as long as you deliver the games as they need to be in terms of quality, which is a question mark. But you kind of can't, I mean, they've already said they're doing Elder Scrolls 6 next. And they've said over and over they want to do the next real Fallout sequel. So you kind of just go linearly from there, and we're talking still like 10 years before we get to a Starfield 2. Yeah. And at that point, it's like the comparison to Mass Effect, right? Or Assassin's Creed, where, okay, yeah, Mass Effect 1 came out and a pretty good game. And then you followed up Mass Effect 2, and people are like, in most ways, this is a better game. That was 3 years later. Assassin's Creed 2 was
3 years.
Assassin's Creed 2, was that even 3 years? Was that 2 years
I don't think
later?
it was. I think it was 2 years.
It was very quickly, following up the first games in both of those cases. And so by the time we get to realistically, by the time we get to a Starfield 2, if it's made by Bethesda Game Studios, gaming will have changed so much yet again that if they are just learning from their mistakes, there will be a whole new, like, megalopolis of mistakes to have learned from by that point, because they will be not keeping up with the Joneses in so many ways. So, again, I would like to see it maybe, but I want to see Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 first, please.
Yeah. I'd also just like, as you point out, with the length of time that it takes for Bethesda to make these games, it feels like by the time a Starfield 2 is done, it's going to be full on Star Trek holodeck. Like we're going to be living Starfield at that point. I mean, isn't Starfield supposed to be like not that far in the future anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, another point that people in chat are making, and I think this is good, is maybe the thing to do with Starfield instead is the No Man's Sky thing of you have this game already that people wanted to love. Some people do. but most people didn't.
Some people love it.
Most people didn't, and there's still a foundation there, though. There is stuff like there's things that like in the late game that people really fall in love with the the doing the stuff over and over again and how that changes things and then it counts for your decisions. Most people don't get there. Can you update and improve this game over the course of the next 10 years the way No Man's Sky did, with update after update and improvement after improvement? And maybe that's the route to go with, to show off what you've learned from your mistakes for Starfield, as opposed to, because that would, like, a smaller team could do that. That is
sure,
that just seems much more viable and welcomed at this point, because again, I don't want them distracted from making sequels to other games that they haven't touched in a very long time. All right, let's see here. Yakuza Studio says Yakuza Kiwami on Switch is selling like hotcakes, and that their predicted numbers were way too conservative. This is from My Nintendo News. Ryoga Godoko Studio director Masayoshi Yokoyama has said in a recent live broadcast that the newly released Yakuza Kiwami for the Nintendo Switch family of systems is currently selling like hotcakes. Yokoyama went on to say that the executives of the company were predicting the number of units, and he missed it by a lot. I think I looked at it a bit too conservatively. The game is only available digitally via the Nintendo eShop, though limited run games will be producing a physical edition at a later date. Yeah, I mean, I think we're at a point where Yakuza is going to sell wherever it goes. The Like a Dragon series has fully come into its own. It is a well-known quantity at this point, and if you can get it on the Switch, people will buy it on the Switch. I'm not too surprised by this. I think it's like, at this point, this is a canon series of video games where it's like everyone's like, oh, I should be playing these.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a discussion the other day with my husband about Sega, and we were like, what are Sega's really big games?
Yeah.
And Gabe was like, oh, do they publish the Yakuza games? And I was like, yeah, they do. They have a hand in publishing those games. And this has become one of their flagship series at this point, which is crazy. I got to play the Tokyo Game Show demo of the Pirates in Hawaii game, and it is an absolute delight. There is a tiger, and you can put clothes on the little baby tiger that follows you around. Yeah, I mean, Yakuza rules. It's goofy. It's and like there's different flavors of Yakuza. Light really has a lot of opinions on the Yakuza games, apparently. He's like, he's my baby tiger. So yeah, I mean, again, it's like there's tons of ridiculous mini games. There's Yakuzas that are more turn-based RPGs. There's Yakuzas that fall into its original format of the beat 'em ups. Yeah, there's just they're fun. They're easy to jump in, and again, it's like just expanding where those games are available. People have enough awareness of them that if they've never played a Like a Dragon Yakuza title, they're like, oh, okay, well, I only have a Switch, so I'm gonna check this out. And yeah, it's great. This is not surprising to me at all.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those franchises that, like, if someone were a new streamer on Twitch and they were like, what can I play to like get an audience right away? There are certain franchises that are obvious go-tos, right? Some like the From games or Resident Evil. Things like that. I think Yakuza is now it's one of those where if you start streaming from Yakuza Kiwami or Zero, and you're like, you promise to play through a whole bunch of those games, you're going to get an audience of people who will love to experience that with you because they love that franchise so much. And I think that is kind of like tells the story of why people will show up for Yakuza Kiwami at 30 frames per second on the Switch.
Absolutely.
That game originally was, of course it's fine on the Switch because it was it was originally like what, a PS2 game? Yeah, PS2.
Yeah, PS2. Yeah.
So yeah, that again, I just think that when people see this franchise now, they will perk up wherever it is. So I'm glad they're taking advantage of it, and I think we will expect most Yakuza games, Like a Dragon games, now to maybe show up on the Switch too going forward, if it's possible to get those to run. Which they are often like reusing technology, so it might be able to just fine.
Could be, yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, there is plenty more to talk about. Nintendo detailed what's happening with Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete version and more after this. All right, we are back, and as I mentioned, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete Edition got some details from Nintendo. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. As a reminder, this is the paid version of the formerly, or soon-to-be formerly, live service game. Free-to-play live service game. Nintendo has revealed more details on its upcoming paid version of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. The company announced back in August that the free-to-play mobile game Pocket Camp would be ending on November 29th. 7 years after it initially launched. Now it is announced that its successor, which will be titled Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete, will be released on December 3rd. The new app will cost $20, but will have an introductory price of $10 until January 31st. That's a smart move. Make people feel like they're getting a deal by spending $10 instead. Pocket Camp Complete will feature almost everything included in the free-to-play version, with some exceptions. Players will be able to transfer their save data by linking their existing Pocket Camp game data with a Nintendo account, then logging into Pocket Camp Complete. I just keep slamming this thing.
I was like, you're just spinning a Game Boy cartridge.
Yeah, and
there.
I just keep hitting the mic arm too. Hey, I'm a big fan of this. I think $10 is a very fair price. $20 seems a bit steep. I think it kind of, at that point, if it goes up to $20, kind of dooms the game to people never really trying it out. But whatever, they made the game. It ran as a live service for 7 years. And if you want to have access to this thing that will now would have otherwise been completely inaccessible, this is fantastic. And it just sounds like it's going to be a video game now. That rules.
Yeah. I mean, I had lots of tour guide friends. I remember back in the day that were all playing Pocket Camp on their phones. I think I was deeply into, what was it, New Leaf on the DS at that point.
Absolutely. That was a great entry in the series.
Yeah, it was so fun. I mean, look, Animal Crossing is an easy game to get into. So making it a real mobile game, I think it's a good gamble on their part.
Yep. I mean, it's It provides long-term access to the game. It saves them from having to continue to support it in an active way, and so they could save money on that side. And then it could just exist there, and all that work didn't just evaporate. So, huge fan of this move. I think it's the right way. If any developer can pull this off going forward, I think this should be the model. And I understand a lot of smaller teams are not going to have the ability to be like, well, we're not making money from this anymore, so let's spend time and money setting it up for the future so people here and there can spend $20 on this thing, and we know people mostly aren't going to do that. So I get why this doesn't happen very frequently, but I'm glad Nintendo at the very least is out there showing it can be done when you have the resources, and a company like Nintendo that has the resources isn't just like being like, well, that's not going to make us a lot of money, so we're not going to do that. I think good move.
And again, doing that introductory $10 price, I think they're going to see, since it's a limited time deal, I think they'll see a huge amount of sales in that time, particularly from people who
I'm going to buy it in that time,
Oh, yeah, just to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In case I want to get into it.
Right, yeah. Just like having around, I mean, like, you know, especially like the girls, who knows when, like, Animal Crossing is definitely something they looked at and been like, I'm interested in this. And it's like, there's a point where maybe it makes sense just to have them play this complete edition on the phone where maybe things are a little bit simpler. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah.
Simpler than Animal Crossing. Who knew it was possible?
Who knew it could get easier than that?
Yeah. All right. Blizzard's insanely expensive World of Warcraft mount is hugely popular. This is from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. And I did include this because I was watching Mike play WoW, and I saw one of these $90 mounts. Yesterday, we reported on Blizzard's new time-limited mount for World of Warcraft, a dinosaur priced at $90 US. At first glance, it might seem a bit absurd, but despite the hefty price tag, it's selling exceptionally well. The ornate Traders Gilded Brutosaur has actually caused a shortage of WoW tokens in the auction house. As we know, tokens can be used for a variety of things in the game, but due to the extreme demand created by this new mount, prices have skyrocketed. Over on Reddit, one user reported, the auction house's WoW token right now is out of WoW token supplies since you need supplies to this is a crazy sentence. I'm going to start over. The auction house's WoW tokens right now is out of WoW token supplies since you need suppliers to supply the demand, and currently skyrocketing given the 3% price cap per 20 minutes. Basically, you need an economics degree.
Right.
Yeah. Adam Smith was talking about WoW when he was writing The Wealth of Nations. Either way, okay. This is when we think about, hey, why doesn't WoW make a new like StarCraft? Because they'll this is going to make more money than all of StarCraft 2. This $90 amount.
Put a dinosaur in WoW.
Yes, it's going to make it's going to make like multiple times more than StarCraft 2 made. And good for them, I guess, but also, man, kind of wish making games was the successful strategy instead of selling $90 dinosaurs.
Yeah, look, I am very sad to say that this is not at all surprising to me.
Yes.
And a lot of that, I think, boils down to this. I have a friend who loves every single Jurassic film, and all of the new ones are I would actually hazard to say pretty much all of them after the first one are objectively not great.
Not great at the
not great.
Yeah.
But this friend of mine sees dinosaur, that's all they see.
Yeah.
They don't pay attention to anything else that is happening in those Jurassic films. They're just like, cool, dinosaurs. And there are a lot of people that are like this.
Yes, there are. Paul Reichert's one of them, I believe. Dan says that his dad will just go see any of those movies because they have
anything with a dinosaur.
Yep. Although I think he was disappointed in the last one because it was more about I haven't seen the last one. It's more about a plague, insects or something, locusts. It sounds like a good time. Right. And so if you're gonna have a $90 amount in a video game, making it a really big dinosaur, this thing is huge, and apparently it also serves like functions where I think it can act as your home base, like where mail gets delivered. I don't understand. I don't play WoW, but that's what Mike was saying last night. And he seemed like, oh, that's a big benefit. He also pointed out when I was watching him play that there was a version of this or a different version, something similar that you could get with in-game gold. And that was like 1 million in-game gold, and that was that's a lot of money apparently. I remember in WoW, yes. So some people did do that, but now everyone is just spending $90. And hey, this is like a hobby game, right? This is people who have been playing this game for decades. $90 ain't shit to them at this point. So I get it. Nannerpuss in chat points out that there's more to the tokens shortage than just this. At the same time, Call of Duty released and the new Diablo expansion released, and you can convert WoW Gold into Battle.net credit for buying other games, and so people probably did that as well. Again, hey, if anyone has a good resource for understanding the economics of all this, I really, really like that kind of stuff. So if anyone's got a good explainer, a video, a documentary, send it to my way. I would like to read up and understand exactly how that works.
Yep.
Okay, new gameplay footage of the new Shinobi game from Sega and Lizard Cube got revealed. This is from My Nintendo News. Actually, I got the video here, and just because it looks so good, I will get it up for everybody here. Let's see there. Browser. There we go. Okay. Yes, as I mentioned, this is from My Nintendo News. Sega and Lizard Cube have been working closely together on a reboot of the iconic Shinobi franchise.
Yeah.
Today, more footage from the game has leaked online, probably to the dismay of both companies. It's okay. Mark of the Ninja is what it looks the most like. But still, like in terms of visuals, but in terms of the way it plays, it looks very much like Shinobi.
Yeah.
And boy, I'm excited about that. Lizard Cube is the team that did, I think, Streets of Rage 4.
Okay.
Like they worked with .emu on Streets of Rage 4. I believe,
nice.
I believe that's right. And I think that's the other reason I really included this story, because I might be a Lizard Cube mark. They do good work. And this is really looking like it could live up to the promise. If this is the kind of, like, it seems like Sega with these revitalization of older franchises is going to run the gamut, where it's like, no, here is a 2D Shinobi that looks shit hot, and you should be excited about it if you're someone who's into like retro games. And then on the other side, we're going to be doing new big 3D games for some of these franchises as well. So I think that's a really smart move where it's like, we're not going to just have one idea of what these games should be. We're going to like talk to developers. We're going to have ideas and we're going to run with that, with whatever makes sense. And looking at this game, it looks like it makes a lot of sense for a new Shinobi.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I feel like I played some of those earlier like Descendants of Shinobi games. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like I like when a company takes a video game and it takes that retro format and it just gives it the quality of life updates, the polish, but keeps that 2D side scrolling. I mean, again, it's like Streets of Rage 4 was awesome.
Yes.
It's just it's nice to see preserving formats that worked, but adjusting them for the modern gamer, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. It's and I think Sega like being like, hey, okay, we are doing okay with Sonic at this moment. It seems like they're actually at high watermark with Sonic after Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. I don't know if that's how you say it, Sonic Shadow Generations. And then obviously Yakuza firing on all cylinders. Atlas couldn't be doing better. The Persona games continue to sell better with each entry, and now Metaphor ReFantazio has been a massive success for them. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, we want to grow, and we're growing. We've grown with a lot of stuff that kind of wasn't our bag when we were the 16-bit company that once was challenging Nintendo. So we have variety already. That gives us freedom and the latitude to actually go back and take those franchises and do something more with them. And and again, I think that's it's as long as you don't just come there with the prescribed idea of what those games should be, what they have to be. I think you're probably going to come out with at least a couple of those that will hit and find an audience. Streets of Rage 4, as you said, evidence of that already. So very excited. All right, couple more stories here. Video game preservation efforts just got some bad news from the U.S. Copyright Office. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. 3 years ago, the Software Preservation Network and the Video Game History Foundation put forth a petition to the U.S. Copyright Office to allow libraries to share the out-of-print video games in their possession with researchers remotely. However, that request has now been denied, and it means that this battle to keep out-of-print games alive has come to an end. The Copyright Office sided with the Entertainment Software Association and other video game lobbyists' arguments that letting libraries share digital access to their titles would lead to a significant risk that preserved video games would be used for recreational purposes. Essentially, the argument is that researchers enjoying the remote games would constitute copyright infringement. You're not allowed to enjoy things when you're researching things. Everyone knows that. The Video Game History Foundation released a statement decrying the decision while pointing out that it helped to prove that around 87% of video game releases in the United States before 2010 remain out of print and actively just not making money for anybody. It was very funny because the decision had there was a list of sources for like how they came to this decision, and one of the things they cited was Frank Cifaldi from the Video Game History Foundation, a talk he gave at GDC explaining how important it is to access these old games. And the reasoning was like, and this thing right here from Frank Cifaldi is why we can't let people access old games. And he's like, well, this is my hell. He's like, I can't believe my own words are being used against me. And clearly they just didn't understand what I was saying. Now, I get where the ESA feels like, someone could just say they're a library and put all these games online, and then people could just go there and play them and pretend that they're playing them for research purposes and enjoy them. It seems like a solvable problem, right? It seems like we put like accredited libraries.
That's literally exactly what I was about to say. I was like, libraries need accreditation.
Right.
So yeah, you just have to have a little bit of infrastructure in place, and you can do this very easily. Yeah,
it's
tiny bit of infrastructure.
We do it all the time for all kinds of stuff. A little bit of regulation, a tiny little bit would go a long way here. And maybe it's really hard to actually get the approval to be one of these libraries that can do that. I would be fine with that as well, because I think some of these libraries, the Video Game History Foundation, would do the work to make that happen, and they would pull their hair out if they had to, but they would get it done, and everyone else would just be like, well, I can't fake that I'm a library that well. I'm just not going to be able to be able to do that. But, you know, in the meantime, being able to access these old games for research purposes, even if you're having fun, continues to be, in my opinion, a moral right. Like, it is something where people need to know the history of this medium. These companies don't respect that. That doesn't matter. You should go play them anyhow. Go find these games however you can, play them. Build up a library of knowledge personally so that you understand where this medium has come from and how it's grown and changed. And that's going to make for better games in the future. So it continues to be important regardless of what the U.S. Copyright Office says. And I hope that the Video Game History Foundation and others find other ways to keep pushing this point and making this point over and over again.
Yeah, this is such a Nintendo move. You know what I mean? Like Nintendo being like, don't emulate our games that aren't available anywhere and nobody's making any money off of. And also it was a third-party title in the first place. And
Yep. And there's all like, you know, there have been, I mean, now Nintendo's been cracking down on some of these websites, but there's websites now you can just go to and you click a button and the emulator just starts up on the web page and it just works. And
it just works.
Yeah. And it's like, this stuff's already out there. It's not hurting anything.
No, it's not hurting anything. And here's my other thing is that this is not the right group of people to like bar some sort of entry to, because gamers are going to find ways to pirate these games and emulate them, you know, because that is the only way that they have been preserved, because they're not in any sort of publication anymore. So again, it's like, why not say yes and have that, again, tiny bit of regulation in place to basically make sure that these are accredited libraries and have these things in a single place where people are basically guaranteed to not be making any money off of them because they just like exist in an archive that is accessible.
Yep. And, you know, find your own way then. If the United States government is not going to recognize the importance of having a library that exists online for people to access video games, which these are digital goods, it would be super beneficial to education across the board. Fine, we'll do it ourselves, and that's the way it's going to continue to be. And I back anyone that's like says, I want to play this game because I want to know about this game, then go find a way to play the game. There are ways.
Absolutely. Yep. There's ways.
All right. Hideo Kojima wants to make the kinds of games aliens will call cool centuries from now. This is from Amber V at Automaton. Death Stranding and Metal Gear series creator Hideo Kojima recently sat down to answer questions from his fans in an interview with Anand News. Apart from talking about personal trivia, such as his attraction to smart women who do science, the game director also gave interesting insights about his mindset as a creator. Kojima thinks that the most important thing a game creator should strive for is to make games they are personally satisfied with. I cannot put out a game that I don't feel convinced by. While it may sound obvious at first, Kojima is talking about in the sense of making something that you wouldn't mind representing you even in the distant future when you're long gone. For starters, the way art is evaluated changes with the times. Just as paintings are appraised 100 or 200 years after the artist's death, games and films also remain as objects to be passed down through generations after their creators pass away. If I make something I'm satisfied with, centuries later, aliens may come and say, "That's awesome." I think that's what it means to leave something behind. Hell yeah, Coach. That's incredible. They will come and say, "That's awesome." I think the aliens are going to think it's tubular and cowabunga.
Tubular. Yeah, absolutely.
Radical.
Yep.
If you're making something and you're thinking on those long terms, they're that long of a timeline where it's like, hey, at some point aliens may look at this. I hope they're impressed. I bet that only helps you make more interesting decisions when you're building a video game.
Just the fact that he goes straight to aliens is wild. It's not a, I want historians to, look back on my games and see that they had historical relevance and, made changes in video games and left an impression. No. I hope that aliens thousands of years from now think my video games are cool.
Yep, I hope so too, Kojima. I hope you get exactly that. Last story here. Tim Walls and AOC played Madden and Crazy Taxi.
Oh my God, it was
Twitch.
so funny.
It was cute.
It was amazing.
Yep, I was very happy with it. It was great to just hear. For one thing, Rebecca Valentine absolutely nailing the reporting that the Dreamcast that Tim Walls owned, he primarily used to play Crazy Taxi. She was right that was his favorite game. He after they got done playing Madden, the whole idea was me and AOC are going to play Madden. They got done, and he's like, "I'm going to play some Crazy Taxi."
I'm playing Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, and he started talking about
but
how
it was not.
Yeah,
right, but it wasn't on a Dreamcast controller, so he was like, "I don't know what the buttons do."
Yeah.
So good.
It was pretty cool to just hear him talk about like I had a real job with some real money. I won the best console, the Dreamcast. I thought it was going to take over the world. The Dreamcast was so good. We all did, Tim. Trust me, we know. And then he was just playing the game and enjoying it, and it was a very cool thing to see. So the potential for a gamer in the White House finally, and a
true gamer,
parentheses positive. Yeah. I don't know. It was just a very fun stream when I did check in on it. Okay. I got a poll question to work with here in a second. Let me get that going. All right. Let me frame that up properly. Who is the best gamer in the GB extended family? Your choices are Kayla or Kayla. So there you go. Kayla has won that one with 75% of the vote, and then she also won with 25% of the vote. So good for her. She has. I don't think she's done much with the Let It Slide stage yet, which I've done very well on. Me and Jesse are trading back times on that, back and forth. But I think once Kayla shows up, once again we'll be in trouble. So although apparently I did cause her much agitation, where she spent 8 hours trying to beat my time on the last stage and never could do it. So, but I still would never want to challenge her directly. I believe that she would destroy me and all that I love. She's that good at games. All right. We got a new poll question. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do, though, Emma Fyffe, why don't you tell people what you got going on, where they can find you on the internet, and all of that good stuff?
Boy, oh boy. So apparently people use Blue Sky now. So I am on that app along with other ones wherein you will just find me at Emma Fyffe, which is my name. And mostly I think you'll just find me here with my cats. I do actually have two, though you usually only see one of them on this here program. And then I'll be, maybe, who knows? I keep threatening in my brain to maybe stream on my Twitch channel again sometime, so I'll let y'all know when I do that. I'll probably be playing Hades too, because that's all I do.
I love that. All right. We'll definitely give Emma a follow on Blue Sky. I'm also
good old Blue Sky.
I'm using Blue Sky a lot more now. I'm not gonna leave Twitter. I was there first. I'm just gonna keep using it as well. Whatever. It's miserable to use though. So I
have it, but I don't look at it.
I go to Blue Sky instead, where I'm like, hey, this is not miserable. This is kind of nice. So that's why I'm using it more, just because it's more pleasant. But yeah, so I think I'm Grubb at whatever the Blue Sky stuff is on there.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. New poll question: do you want a Starfield 2? There you go. There it is, right there. Yes or no. I'm just interested to see what people's initial knee-jerk reaction is to that. Do you want a Starfield 2? Yes, no, those are your only options. We'll discuss the results of that on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Wednesday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, on Tuesday, tomorrow, we'll have the Giant Bombcast returning. Should be a good time. Looking forward to that. Then later this week, we'll have plenty of fun stuff. Although, I think I'm traveling on Friday. I think a lot of us are traveling on Friday because we're going to Dan's to do Extra Life.
Oh, that's
Saturday.
right.
That's this weekend, I think. That's crazy. So we're putting some plans together for that, and should be a good time. So definitely all weekend we'll have Giant Bomb stuff for you. It'll be a good time. All right. Anything else I should mention? Yeah, like Blight Club should be back, all that good stuff. So keep your eyes peeled. In the meantime, though, Emma, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening and watching. You are the best audience in gaming. And until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself. And yes, Jan, the Famicom means family computer.